So 2 yoga blocks or a couple of thick books for your hands. Cushions and pillows are always really helpful just to make yourself comfortable. If you have a tennis ball, a trigger ball, a cork mobility ball, anything like that will be really good to release the feet. And a chair, a lounge or a bench just to support the hands for some other stretches that we'll get into today. All right, guys, slide myself back so you can see me. Okay, standing on your feet, let's go through a bit of a body limber just to warm us up before we get into some stretches. So I'm just going to come down to my ankles. Aldrich, can you tilt the camera up a touch, please? Thanks. Okay, coming down to my ankles, lift one foot up, and we're just going to go around in a circle. So just full circle, starting to trace the toes. Sorry, I hope you're not getting seasick there. So just tracing the toes around. Let's go back the other way. So really trying to pull the toes through the biggest circle that you can. So just working that ankle through a full movement. Good, last one this way. Pause there, change directions. So take that foot out in front. We're just circling all the way around, nice and slow. Really working to trace the toes through a full circle. And let's go back in the other direction. So all the way around here. Thank you. Good. All right, last one in this direction. Okay, pause there, bring your hands down to your knees. Just gonna circle the knees around, straighten them out. Back the other way. So feel free to roll through the sides of the feet with this as well if you like. But just starting to, again, warm up through that knee joint. So all the way around. Good, one more in each direction here. Make sure you are straightening them out completely at the top. Okay, pausing there. All right guys, let's come up to the hips. Bring your knee up in front. I'm just gonna get you to pull that knee out to the side and back to the front. So try and keep your hip bones facing forwards, knee to the side, back to the front. So just warming up a bit through that hip joint. Let's do another 3 here. Good, 3. So using that standing leg for balance as well. 2. Good, and whoop, 1. Lovely, change your sides there. Bring that other leg up in front. Pull out to the side. And back to the center. Good. You might like to have your hands on your hips, so we're keeping the bones facing forwards. That's it. 3. Couple more here. 2. Good. And last one. Lovely. Take those feet into a straddle. Let's warm up a bit through the trunk. Hands on the hip or down by the knee, and I'm just going to stretch out across the top. So it's trying to lengthen out through the side of the torso. Come up and change sides. So I'm trying to keep my chest facing forward. See if you can feel a bit of a stretch here through the sides, maybe through the lat and the side of the shoulder. And you can take this hand as far down your leg as you like for more of a stretch. That's it. So I'm just actively but gently trying to pull a little further into that side each time. So get a couple more in here. Good, last one each way. Guys, if your microphone isn't on mute, I'm just gonna get you to pop it on mute for me, just so, yeah, no background noise. Lovely, come back to the center. Okay, let's come into a straddle. So I'm just starting to warm up through the back of my legs and my hamstrings. So I'm hinging forward, keeping that spine nice and long. Good, keep going. Let's go for another 5. Just gently working a little bit lower each time if you can. 4. Good. So as you lean forward, pausing at the point where you feel you can't go any further. 3. That's it, push those hips back. 2. And lovely. 1. Okay, I need you to fold over now. So I'm just going to bend over, holding in my straddle fold. Now if you're really tight in your hamstring down the back of the legs, you can bend your knees a bit. But otherwise I'm just going to gently start to pulse down. Just a few gentle pulses. So I'm just trying to pull myself a little bit lower at the front. Good. So they're nice and slow, nice and controlled. If you're fairly close to the ground, you might like to try and get your elbows to the ground each time you pulse. Okay, now holding down there, we're just going to start to walk our hands from side to side. So I'm going to walk my hands over to my left foot and then gently walk them back through the front. So I'm stretching out in front here and I'm just walking them across to the right foot. When you get there, start to walk back in the other direction. So we're just going to go for about a minute, gently walking those hands from one foot. Good, sweep the body around as well. Then we walk them back across the front. So I'm stretching as far forward as I can. And over to the other side. So a little bit of a stretch here through the hamstrings, through the lower back and through the sides of the torso. Good. Again, if you're really tight in the legs, just put a soft bend in your knees. You're going to get a couple more in here. So nice and slowly at your own pace. Keep walking those hands around from one side to the other. See if you can get a little bit further around each time. Well done. Okay. Guys, when you come into the center, you can just gently pop down onto your hands and knees. And we're just going to work into a couple of reps of cat-cow to loosen up our spine. So I don't mind where you start, but you might like to start in a rounded position. And then nice and slowly, if you think of starting at your tailbone, I'm slowly going to extend, so arch through my lower back, one vertebrae at a time, finishing up at my head. And then we can go back the other way. So nice and slowly transitioning between cat and cow. And we're trying to start at one end of the spine, so starting either at your head or your tailbone. Good. And slowly, moving through those positions. Let's get another 30 seconds in. So this one can be quite good to do if you've spent a lot of time sitting or standing. Today, this is a nice one just to encourage your spine to move just one vertebrae at a time. Okay, finishing off the rep that you are on. And then we're going to sink down into a bit of a seal position. So you might like to start on your forearms and your elbows, or you can push up onto your hands, whatever you're most comfortable with. So in your seal position, I'd like you to think about pushing your hips down into the floor as much as possible and pulling your shoulders down and back so they're away from your ears. And then we're rotating. So just nice and slowly, small twists looking over that shoulder. Good, and again, just trying to hold those shoulders down and away from your ears as you work through these rotations. Now guys, if you're not comfortable with the rotations, you might just like to hold your seal. And then we're going to bring a downward dog into this just to warm up through the calves, hammies and shoulders a little bit more. So I've spaced my toes here and tucked them under. And then I'm just going to press up. As I press back, I'm trying to push my heels into the floor, a little double pulse through the shoulders and back into your seal position. So let's go through 5 here. Pushing back, little double pulse through the shoulders, try and get your heels on the floor. Good, back into seal. 4. It's a bit of a stretch through hamstrings, maybe through the calves and ankles. Well done. 3. So you're trying to open up the shoulders, so you're pushing your armpits back towards your toes at the top. Last couple. 2. That's it. Good. 1 more. And pressing back again. See if you can get a little bit closer to the floor with your heels, a little bit straighter through the legs. Okay, and pause there. All right. As you come out of that, guys, we're just going to jump into a half lunge. Just going to warm up or loosen up through the hip flexors as well before we jump into a deeper stretch later on. Actually, I'm going to stay facing this way, and I'm just gently going to go through some pulses. So I'm making sure here, when I'm in my stretched position, that my toes stay in front of my knee, okay? And then I'm just gently going to release, then use my front foot to pull forward into that stretch. So it's a little release not all the way up. Use that front foot to pull forward into the stretch. So let's just work good for about 45 seconds here. So releasing from the stretch, just a touch, using that front foot to pull your hips down towards the mat. Good. And it's just working as low as you're comfortable each time. So let's get another few reps in here. We'll see how the other side feels as well in a moment, so see if they're feeling fairly similar. All right, gently push back on that front foot. We'll change those legs over. Okay, so set yourself up. Just relax forward into the stretch, and as you do, just make sure that these toes on your front foot are set in front of your knee, and then gently use that front foot to pull, so using the heel to pull into that stretch. Push back a touch to release. So just gently moving in and out of that stretch. So we'll get into a bit of a deeper stretch for the hip flexors later on tonight as well. I know sometimes they can be a bit of a tighter muscle group for us, especially if we've spent a bit of time sitting or even if we're walking around. Good, couple more pulses on this side. So think of using that front heel to draw those hips forward and down. That's it, last one here. Okay, gently push back on that front leg to release. Guys, we're going to start with just some release work for the feet. So if you have your mobility ball or your trigger ball, golf ball, tennis ball, I'm gonna get you to grab that. Place it on the floor and just come into a standing position. Okay, so we're going to start with that under the ball of the foot, so under the upper part of your foot. And I'm going to exaggerate here, hopefully you can see, but I'm going to go side to side. So I'm rolling it left to right across the ball of my foot. So we're going to work 3 different sections of the foot. Now feel free to put as much pressure there as you can tolerate, or if you find a tighter spot or a spot that's a little bit tender, you might just like to gently work back and forward in that tender spot. So the reason that we release the feet as well is there's a lot of sensory input goes through our feet, guys. So to have feet that move well, there's also lots of joints in the feet. So it's important that they're moving because they can impact how the hips, the knees and the lower back move as well. Okay, I'm gonna get you to scrunch your toes around the ball now and then release them. So try and scrunch your toes around the ball and release them. Let's just go for another 4. Good. 3, so I've still got the ball under the ball of my foot or under the upper part of my foot. 2, that's it, 1 more, scrunch those toes around the ball. Okay, and now I'm gonna roll the ball from the big toe down towards my heel. So I'm rolling it along the inside arch of my foot. So from the base of the big toe down towards your heel. Okay, so this is where we can start to get some of those tender points. So rolling forwards and backwards on the ball this time. Just get a couple more in here. Just make a note of where these tender points are on this foot too, because we will change over onto the other side in a moment. You might like to stand on the ball. If you found a sore spot, stand there, put a little bit of extra pressure on. Okay, and then we're going to move across to the lateral arch. So from the pinky toe down to the heel. So we've been working from the big toe down towards the heel. So take the ball a little bit further towards the outside edge of your foot. If you find a tight spot there, guys, you can also gently twist, put a bit of extra pressure on there as you rotate around. If you've got really good feet and you go barefoot quite a bit, you might be comfortable to stand on the ball. Okay, and then we're going to swap sides. So when you're ready there, see how that feels, move the ankle around if you need to, and jump onto the other side. So again, we're starting with the ball up under the top third of the foot, so upper third of the foot, and we're rolling left to right. So there's an arch there that runs from that big toe down towards the little toe. Because we're just working side to side. Again, feel free to lean forward a little bit on that if you'd like to put a bit more pressure on the foot. Find those tight spots, might be under the big toe. Might like to spend a little bit of extra time or put a bit of extra pressure there. Okay, And then we're just going to work to, again, settle that ball into a nice tight spot. We're gonna wrap the toes around, try and curl them down, open them up. So I'm wrapping the toes around and opening them up. Good, let's go for another 3 or 4 here. That's it. Good, 2. Good, 1 or 2 more. Make it a nice tight wrap, so we're tensing and releasing the muscles. Okay, and then we're gonna roll from forwards and backwards, so under the big toe, down towards that heel. So hitting that medial arch. Again, make a note of where your tight spots are on this one, or the tender points might be down towards the heel, or you might find them up under the big toe, so it's rocking forwards and backwards. And then we'll also work towards the lateral arch, so we're going to move now towards that little toe, that pinky, and roll down the outside edge of your foot. So from that pinky down towards your heel. That's it. Just go to a couple more in here. Okay, so once we're done here, guys, we're going to actually stretch the calves. So sometimes releasing the feet can actually help when we come to stretching the calves. So finish off that one there. Good, move around a little bit if you need to. And we're going to move into a calf stretch. So with your calf stretch, guys, we're going to pop back down onto the floor and we're going to do this in a downward dog position. So I'll just show you before we start, okay? So I'm going to pop up. You can bend your knees if you like, but I'm going to place one foot down and my other leg is going to be behind. So the calf that I'm stretching is my grounded one. And I'm going to do this through reps. So I'm going to gently rock my shoulders back, and as I rock my shoulders back, I'm lifting this leg up. As I lift the leg up, I get a calf stretch. And then I release by bringing my shoulders forward and toe down. So pushing back, lifting the leg up until you find a stretch, and releasing. So we're going to go for 45 seconds. So you can work at your own pace, and then we'll swap sides. So setting yourselves up and just getting ready to go there. Alrighty, and as soon as you're in position, let's make a start. So I'm pushing my heel back into the floor, lifting the leg up until I find a stretch. Now guys, if that's too much, you can elevate your hands as well. So we can actually, if you're more comfortable, place your hands on blocks. If you're a little bit tighter, elevating your hands might be a more comfortable option. So please feel free to put your hands on a chair or on some books if you would like to. We've got about another 20 seconds here. So see if we get a little bit more of a stretch each time. Good. Push that heel into the floor. Push your shoulders back. Let's get 2 more reps in. And pausing there. Now if your shoulders need a break, come down, roll your shoulders out, and then we're going to jump into the other side. So when you feel ready, we can move straight into the other side. Take one toe behind the leg you're aiming to stretch, and we're pushing back through the shoulders and lifting that foot up. So I'm trying to push my heel into the floor. Good, pushing my shoulders back. And we're also trying to keep the hips square to the floor. So we're trying not to twist too much through those hips. Good, let's get a few more reps in here. So nice and slow at your own pace. You might find this stretch is a little bit nervy as well. So because we have the toes in that flexed position, or the foot in that flexed position, might be a bit of a sharper stretch. Last 2 reps on this side. Good, one more here. And pausing there. All right, guys, popping down out of that. we're going to work in a bit of rotation for the hips, but before we get into that, I'm just going to get you to jump into a seated position, and we're just going to work through some swivel hips to warm them up. So I'm just going to start in my 90-90 position. So that just means my front knee is at 90 degrees. If you've done a few of my classes, you might be familiar with this. And my back knee is also at 90 degrees. So all I'm going to do is lean back on my hands, pivot on my heels, and swivel to the other side. So I end up in the same position on the other side. Okay, so just nice and relaxed. Let's just work a few from side to side. So I'm trying to pull my back knee up, pull my knees apart as I transition, and turn my torso to face the direction of my front leg. So focus on pulling your knees nice and wide through the center. Just a couple more here. So guys, what we're doing with this one, we're just starting to warm up our legs in internal and external rotation, or the hips, I should say. Good, one more each way. See if you can pull those knees a little bit further apart as you come through the center of that transition. Good. Okay, and this should be a nice lead in for a pigeon stretch. So guys, we're going to stretch the outside edge of the glutes, so it'll actually be on the front knee. Now, we're going to start, if you're more comfortable as well, we can elevate the hips. I'm going to start in that same 90-90 position. If you find it hard to get a bit of a stretch, so this is a stretch where we start to lean forward and we can take the other leg out behind us. What you can do, you may like to elevate your hip, okay? So propping your hip up may make this stretch a little bit more comfortable for you. So if you like to elevate the hip, you can elevate it on a cushion or a pillow. And I'm going to talk you through this stretch. So starting in that 90-90 position, we're going to lean forward until I get a stretch on the outside edge of my hip. So you may like as well to prop your hands on blocks for this particular stretch, okay? Now, if you're feeling pretty comfortable there, you can also start to extend your back leg out behind you, okay? So you don't have to be propped up on a pillow. It's just an option there if it allows you to get a better stretch. Okay, now guys, if you can't straighten this leg out behind you, that is fine. You can also leave it tucked into the side, and you can find a stretch by bringing your chest forward and down. Okay, so I'm just going to get you to settle into that stretched position as a starting point. I'm just going to work on breathing and holding. So find a stretch on the outside edge of your front hip. It may be with the chest up, it might be with the chest forward. So just taking a nice deep breath in. Good, as you exhale, see if you can relax a little bit further into that stretch. Now guys, we will be here for a little while, so if you need to jump out of the stretch at any time, pop out and just rejoin us when you feel ready. Take another nice deep breath in. Good, exhale. Just taking another full breath in. So we should be starting to feel that hip give or let go a touch in this position. And then we're going to put in a couple of small active contractions. Okay, we're going to use our muscles to pull ourselves into this stretch. So I'm going to get you just to bring your hands down just as far as you're comfortable to start with. So it might be here, it might be a little bit further. And then we're going to take a deep breath in, and for 10 seconds, I'm going to actively try and pull myself down into the stretch as low as I'm comfortable. So take a nice deep breath, and when you're ready, you can walk those hands forward, pulling yourself as long as you can into that stretch for 10, 9, 8. If you're up for a challenge, lift the hands up. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stay there, but just relax. Just relax. Try not to come out of that stretch, and we're going to go for one more in a moment. Take a nice deep breath in. Good. Try and lengthen out in the spine and pulling yourself forward for 10, 9, 8, 7. Good. Hands up for a challenge if you're keen. 5, 4. Lengthen out through the spine. 3, 2, and 1. relax, try not to come up for a moment. Let's take 2 full breaths just to finish that off. So sitting as low as you're comfortable, 2 full breaths. And when you have taken those breaths, you can slowly pop up out of that position. All right, now if you need to walk around for a moment, shake those legs out. And then we're going to switch to the other side. And we're going to do the same on the other side. So as soon as you're ready, you can start to set yourself up on that second side. So remember, starting with that front and back leg at 90 degrees. And then if we need a little bit more of a stretch, we can either take the torso forward, we can start to extend that back leg out behind us. Okay. Once you're comfy, let's settle in. So we're going for that initial relaxed hold to start with. So just to give the body a chance to get used to being in this position. So guys, that might be torso up, it might be our chest down. You choose what is most comfortable for you. Okay, just focusing on your breathing while you're here. If you're a bit of a wriggler, you might like to walk your hands around. Sometimes if you walk your hands over to the direction of your feet, so I'm at a bit of an angle, you might get a little bit more of a stretch across the outside edge of the hip. So you can play around with different angles of your torso. Let's go for another full breath in. Good. All right. From there, we're going to work into those 2 contractions. So take a nice deep breath to start to walk those hands forward. And when you're ready, let's try and pull yourself into that stretch. So try and pull your chest over that front leg for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good, relax, but try to stay down in the position. Try not to pop up. We'll do one more. Take a nice deep breath in. And when you're ready, pulling yourself forward, lengthening out through your spine for 10. Hands up off the floor if you're in for a challenge. 8, 7, 6, 5. Good. Try and bring your chest over that front leg. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Now stay down there just for these last 2 breaths. So nice deep breath in. Good. Really trying to relax there at the end of this stretch. And when you've taken those 2 breaths, gently popping up and releasing from that position. Good, guys. Okay, again, walk around a moment if you need to. From there, we're going to actually move into some adductor work. So we've stretched out the outside edge of the hips a little bit. We're going to come in and stretch the inside edge. So we're going to preface our main stretch here with a frog stretch. So just to start, I'm going to jump into a crawling position. And to settle into that frog stretch, I'm just going to let my knees start to slide out to the sides, okay? So I'm just going to come into what it looks, I'm just gently rocking forwards and backwards. Okay, now, if you're a little bit higher up in the stretch, you might like to rest your hands or your chest on a cushion, so that's another option there. Okay, and we're just going to sit here for a minute because we're going to move this stretch into something a little bit more specific. So gently rocking forwards and backwards. And I'm trying to almost push my tailbone out. So if you notice that you're quite rounded here, I almost want to let my tummy sink and come into a small arch through that lower back. So push that tailbone up in the air. So we're coming into what we call an anterior tilt. So tipping those hips forwards and down. Good, couple more rocks here. Just make sure you're breathing. In terms of how hard we should be stretching, as if you are grimacing and fighting the stretch, we're not going to give our body the chance to relax. So feel free to ease up out of those a touch if you really feel that your body is fighting the position. Okay, so to make this stretch more specific, we're going to be stretching one leg at a time. So we've just given those adductors a chance to loosen up. We're going to roll forward, just come out of that stretch, and we're going to reset ourselves doing one leg at a time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take one foot out to the side. So I've started in the same position, I'm just taking one foot out to the side. And what I'm going to do from here, I'm just going to let that foot slide as low as I can. So you might like to be on your forearms, you might like to be on your hands, you can rest your hands even on a chair. I can be up and resting on a chair if I like. But we're going to sink down and we're going to hold that stretch. So I'm just going to give you a chance to get into position. Make sure your knees padded, so it's nice and comfortable. All right. So just let's take a few deep breaths in this position. Okay. So again, if you're a little bit higher in this stretch, you may prefer to have your chest up and your hands on a lounge or a chair, or you can bring them down to the floor. So nice deep breath in. As we exhale, we're just aiming to let our tummy and our hips relax. And then we're going to put in a few small efforts here. Now, if you're someone who likes to move around in your stretching, you might like to rock forwards and backwards. You don't have to sit there and hold it still. It's fine to move around if you like. Okay, take a nice deep breath in, guys. And we're going to work on 2 contractions. So deep breath in, and I'm going to start to push my heel down into the floor. So I'm gently trying to push down into the mat for 5, 4, so almost like I'm pushing out of that stretch. 3, drive that heel down. 2, 1. Now stop pushing, relax, and see if you can sink a little bit lower into that stretch. See if the muscles have given you a little bit more space. Good. Take a nice deep breath in, and let's go again. Start to push that heel, that foot down into the floor for 5. So you choose how hard you can do this safely. 4, keep pushing down. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good, let that tummy soften. See if you can sink a little bit further into that stretch. Take 2 full breaths to finish this off. Good, 2 full breaths. And then to come out of this stretch, you can either rock forwards onto your tummy, or you can just press up and gently walk your hands back in. Okay. Now guys, I know stretching through the adductors isn't always the most comfortable stretch, so if you need to walk around for a moment, and then you can pop back down, and we're going to sink into the other side. Okay. Aldrich, that camera keeps blurring. All right, so sinking into that other side. Oh. All right. Sorry guys if you had me a little bit blurry for a moment. So we can be up, or we can sink a little bit further down. Again, if you find this stretch quite intense, you might like to sit up and rest your hands on the back of the lounge for support. So just make yourself comfortable here, wherever that is. Once you're settled in the stretch, focusing on your breathing. That's it, so a nice deep breath in. Again, if you like to rock forwards and backwards here, you can. If you want to put a little bit more weight into this, you can bring your chest up as well. Okay, so it's very much up to you. Stretching is really different, guys, for everybody's body. So it's just working out what feels best for you. And our hips are also very different. So changing the position of our torso here can make a stretch slightly more comfortable, depending on how our hips are structured. Take another nice deep breath in. Okay, we're going to work through those 2 contractions. So when you're ready, we're going to gently start to push the heel of that foot down into the floor, just as hard as you feel you can safely, for 5, 4, so you're almost trying to push out of that stretch. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good. As you relax, see if you can sink a little bit lower there. Millimeters count, guys, when you're stretching. Good, taking another deep breath in and starting to push the heel of that foot down into the floor for 5, 4, again, just as hard as you can safely, 2, 1. Good, as you relax, see if that foot might slide out a little bit further. That's it, let's just finish off with 2 full breaths in this position. That's it. Again, on each exhale, we're just trying to let that tummy soften and give. And when you feel that you've maxed yourself out in that stretch, guys, we can gently come forward. Good, slide out of that position. Now, if you would like to walk around a moment, or even just gently swivel those hips around to loosen them up, you can. So we're going to jump into a hip flexor stretch after this. So if you have access to a chair or a lounge, or even a wall, guys, having your hands on a wall here can be helpful as well. Alternatively, you can just grab your 2 yoga blocks. So if you have that chair or lounge handy, we're just going to bring it, so you probably can't move your lounge, but move yourself over to your lounge, okay? And we're going to start by relaxing forward into that lunge position. So I've got my hands here just for a bit of support. It will work equally well with your hands on a wall. So that's another option there, okay? So I'll just give you a second to set yourself up. And then when you are ready, just starting to relax into that stretch. Okay. Now, taking a few full breaths while you're relaxed into that stretch. And there'll be 2 parts to this stretch. So we're going to put some small efforts in, and then we're going to put some knee lifts in where we open up that back hip a little bit more. So once we're settled, guys, we're going to use this front foot again to pull ourselves into the stretch. So I'm going to use that heel, and I'm going to also squeeze my back glute. And when I do that, I should be able to pull a little bit lower, and we're going to work through 5 of those for 3 seconds. Okay, so using your front foot and your back glute, let's try and pull this hip forward to the floor. Let's pull for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just relax. Good, hold that new position. And let's go again, use your front foot and your back glute, pull yourself into that stretch for 5. So try and pull this hip forward, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good, relax. As you relax, you might find yourself pop up a touch. That's fine as well. Take a deep breath in. Let's go again. Front foot, back glute, push those hips forward for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good, relax. Let's do 2 more. Nice deep breath. And squeeze that glute. Try and push that hip towards the floor. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good, little release. And 1 more here. So squeezing that back glute, so there's a bit of strength behind your hip. Pull forward with that front heel. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now, try not to come out of that stretch too much, but we're going to tuck your back toe under. So what we're going to be doing from here is, without bobbing up too high, I'm going to try and push my back heel towards the floor. Squeeze my glute, and I'm trying to straighten my back knee just a little bit so that it lifts off the mat. Now, as I do that, it lengthens out through this hip, so I get a bit more of a stretch. So we're going to do that. We're going to do just 5 reps again with a small hold on each one. So when you're ready, nice deep breath in, try and squeeze your glute, and we're trying to straighten that back knee. So push that heel back, lift the knee if you can for 5. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight. 3, 2, 1. Lower down, and it's going to be quite a small movement for most of us. Let's go again. Gently squeeze the glute. Try and straighten the back knee. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good, lowering down. Nice deep breath. Let's go again. Push that heel back. Try and get the knee off the mat. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lowering down. If you're in for a challenge, hands can come up, so we're loading that hip a bit more. And let's go again, lift that back knee. 5, 4, good. 3, 2, 1, lowering down. Okay guys, last one. And bigger stretch yet, let's go. Push that knee back, heel back, lift that knee. 5, 4, hands up if you're in for a bit of a challenge, a bit of extra load, and rest. Well done. Now to come out of that, I'm gonna either gently use front leg and hands to push out of the stretch. You might just like to rock a touch before you release completely. So just loosen that hip up. We have been in that position for a while. And as soon as you feel comfortable, change those sides over and we'll pop onto the other side. All right, so changing the legs over, walk around as always if you need to. Okay. And then just setting yourself up on the other leg. So sitting here for a moment, taking a few breaths, just starting to relax. So guys, if your hip flexors hurt to stretch, if you don't stretch them a lot, they can be quite uncomfortable to stretch. So doing a little bit, even just sitting in a lunge position, so doing a little bit as often as you can, particularly if you're sitting a lot of the day, can make quite a big difference, and it does get more comfortable. Okay, so take a nice deep breath in. We're going to use that front foot and your back glute, and we're trying to pull ourselves forward. Let's go. So pulling into the stretch for 5. Good. 4, 3, 2, 1. Relaxing there. Just make sure again your toes are in front of your knee on that front leg. And front heel, back glute. Push your hips forward for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Relax. Couple more here. Deep breath in and pulling forward. Try and pull that hip towards the floor for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Deep breath. We'll do 2 more here. And let's go. Squeeze that back glute. Try and use that to push the hip forward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And relax. Okay, last one. Again, using your front foot, back glute, and try and pull those hips towards the mat for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, relax there. Take a deep breath. We're gonna tuck those back toes under. So we're coming into those knee lifts, and we're thinking of trying to drive the heel back towards the floor to gently straighten that knee. So when you're ready, using the hands for support or hands to come up to make this a little bit harder. Stay nice and low, and let's go. So I'm gently trying to push my heel back. Knee comes up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower down. Good. Deep breath. Let's go straight away. Push that heel back. 5, but push the hips down. 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower down. Good. Nice deep breath. Stay as low as you can. Try and lift that knee up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Relax. We have 2 more here. Nice deep breath. And let's go. Lifting that knee up, but stay low. Hips to floor. 3, 2, 1. And relax. Last one here, guys. You're doing really, really well. Keep breathing. And let's go. Last hold. Knee comes up. Push that heel back. 4, 3, 2, 1. And gently lower down. Okay, a few little rocks. So nice and slow when you're coming out of stretches if you need to. A few little rocks forwards and backwards. Okay. Walk around if you need to. And guys, grab a quick drink if you need to as well. So we're going to move on to the upper body. All right, so just making sure you've got a little bit of space there. We're just going to start down with our wrists. So as soon as you're ready, I'm just in a kneeling position here. And I have my hands placed under my shoulders, so my fingers are facing forwards. All right, I'm gonna gently start by rocking forwards and backwards. So if I'm side on, you might be able to see a little bit better. I'm rocking forwards until I find a stretch through my wrists and forearms and a little release. So we're aiming to keep the elbows quite straight here. Good, so rock forwards and use your fingers here. Push your fingers into the floor to come out of that stretch. We'll get another 4 in. Good, keep those elbows as straight as you can. And we're only taking ourselves into the stretch as far as we're comfortable. So just remember those wrists are quite small in terms of joint size. So just being gentle with them if you haven't done a lot of work on them before. One more here. Okay, I'm then going to lift my hands up, turn them around, and have my fingers facing towards my knees this time. So this time to stretch, I'm gently going to rock back. So I'm sitting back to my heels, and then it's a release. So I'm pushing the heel of my hand down into the floor. That's it. Good. And just sitting again as far back into the stretch as you're comfortable. Let's get another 3 rocks in here. Guys, again, for anyone on phones or laptops a lot during the day, this can be quite a nice release in your breaks. Okay, from that position, guys, we're actually going to come onto the knuckles. So I'm going to place my hands on the floor. I'm on my knuckles, so the thumb is on the outside of my fingers, okay? And very gently, so keep your knees quite close to your hands here. So I've got a lot of weight in my knees. So if I'm unsure about my wrists, I'm sitting back, so I'm taking less load through my wrists and more through my legs. So from this position, we're going to start to walk onto the back of the hand. So one at a time, and then back up onto my knuckles. So if you find it's a really big stretch, bend your elbow a little bit. That's going to reduce the stretch. If you're really comfortable, you can start to lock those elbows out and keep the elbows straight. Again, sit back into the knees if you need to keep a little bit less weight through those wrists, depending how conditioned your wrists are. Just walking down and walking up, remembering that you can bend your elbows here. So bending the elbows is a softer stretch. Let's get another couple in. If you're comfortable, you might like to sit down there and gently rock from side to side. That's it. Okay, and walk back onto the palms of your hands for a moment. All right, and then just gently bring the palms together and just roll those wrists out, just release them there. Okay, guys, if you have your chair or bench handy, again, or a wall, we're just going into some stretching cat work. So stretching cat is this option here. Now, if you don't have a chair or a bench, we can do this on the floor. So my hands are on the floor and I can do my reps on the floor, okay? Otherwise, if you have the option, we can elevate the hands and we're just going to work for 60 seconds with a 30-second hold. So my ears will be between my arms here and my knees are back under my hips. And I'm just gonna press the chest and shoulders down into that stretch. So I'm trying to keep my ears between my arms and lift up to release. So as soon as you're in position there, let's start that clock. So 60 seconds, gently working up and down, ears between the arms. You might even like to look up towards your thumbs. And remember, if you don't have a chair, you can have your hands on the floor here or up on your yoga blocks or books. Good. So I'm actively trying to pull my chest and armpits to the floor as I move down into that stretch. So rather than just relaxing into the stretch, we're actively taking ourselves down into that position. Good, we'll get a couple more reps in. Okay, and now I'm just gonna get you to sink down into that stretch. I'm just gonna hold in that stretch. Now, if the stretch is too much, you can bring your knees in so they're a little bit closer to your body. So holding in the bottom of the stretch, taking a nice deep breath in, and on each exhale, we're just working to relax a little bit lower into that position. Good, another 2 full breaths. So we're opening up through the chest, shoulders and lats, and also through the upper back here. Good, last breath. And then to release from that stretch, lift up, just walk your knees in. Okay, guys, well done. You might like to roll your elbows out if you found any pressure on your elbows there, just from being in that straight, loaded position. You might like to roll your elbows out. Okay, so from there, we're just going to get into the chest in front of the shoulder a little bit more. So you have the option here, guys, of lying down or standing up. So we're going to jump into this stretch. So you can either have your hand on a door frame, or I can come into a position that's laying face down on the floor, and I can place that same arm position down on the floor. So we're going to get into the pecs. So chest, front of the shoulder capsule. All right, so with this stretch, sorry guys, my head is up so my mic isn't rubbing on the floor, but from this position, I'm going to gently roll the front of my shoulder towards the mat, try and hold it in that position, and then roll my body back into that stretch. Now, if that is too much on your shoulder, you can straighten the arm out to the side. That would be a slightly gentler stretch. Otherwise, keep that elbow up in line with your shoulder. And we're just going to sit and relax into this position. Good, and see if we can take that stretch a little further on our breath. If you're having any issues with your back, bend your knees up in front of your body. You may find that's more comfortable than taking one foot behind. Just taking a nice deep breath in here. Good, as you exhale, just relax, see if we can roll a little further into that stretch. And again, if you find that becomes too much on the shoulder, you can take that arm out straight. Good, nice full breath in. Exhale, see if you can roll a little further into that stretch. Good, let's do 2 more breaths. Nice full breath. Now if the front of that shoulder has popped up off the floor, you can also increase the stretch by gently trying to pull that shoulder down and forwards towards the mat. Well done. Okay, to come out of this stretch, just gently roll yourself forwards to start with before you move the arm. So roll forwards. Okay, if you like to wiggle the shoulder around, stretch it out, move it as you need to, and then we'll settle into the other side. So elbow is up in line with my shoulder, palm is flat on the floor. For an easier option, make that arm into a T, so directly out to the side. Okay, we aim to pull the front of the shoulder towards the mat, and then roll into that stretch. Okay. Good, okay, coming into your breathing here, so nice deep breath in. On each exhale, we're trying to take that stretch a little bit further if you're comfortable. Again, you can come into that T if you'd like to change the stretch a little bit. Let's get a couple more breaths in here. As you can also play around and see how it feels bringing those knees up in front of the body. Sometimes it can be a little bit nicer on the lower back. Two full breaths in. Again, actively but gently trying to draw the front of that shoulder down towards the floor while you're laying there. And then very slowly when you're done, releasing from that stretch. Okay, wiggle the shoulders around if you need to. All right. So guys, we're going to finish off with some shoulder extension. We're going to finish off as well with a little bit of basic bridge work, and then just stretch out the neck to finish. So if we just come into a seated position, all right, and I'm not going to count your reps here, you can work just for time, so it's just to loosen up a little bit before our next stretch. So I'm just going to pull my shoulders back. I'm going to lift my hips as high as I can, and then I'm going to rock forward to increase the stretch. I'm trying to rock my knees over my toes and back, okay? So I would just like you to count 10 rocks. Now, if you can't get your hips this high, it'd be a little bit lower. That's fine as well. I'm gonna rock forward, stretching out through the front of the shoulder. You might feel it stretch through the bicep as well. So hips as high as you can get them. Trying to squeeze your shoulders back together. And I would just like you to gently count 10 reps. So they're nice and slow. It might be just a very small rock. You go with what's comfortable for you. Okay, remembering hips down will make it a gentler stretch. Keep going there. So finish off your 10 rocks. So 10 rocks. Now when you've come out of that, again, if you find the elbows a little bit tight, roll them out. So a couple of circles through your elbows. And then we're going to come into some sweeping bear. So this is a little bit of prep work for bridge. So I'm going to start in a similar position. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm trying to have my fingers facing back as much as possible, and I'm going to sweep one hand across the front. Now, when I do that, I'm then going to lift my hips up, and I'm trying to push my weight. So I'm pushing through my feet, pushing my weight over my supporting arms. I'm coming into a half a bridge. I'm gently going to come down, swap to the other side, lift my hips, and remember, I'm trying to push my weight over my supporting arm. So rather than being here, pushing my weight back and then swapping sides. So we're going to go for 90 seconds. All right, so when you're ready, we sweep across the front. You can start, lift up through the hips, and I'm trying to take my weight over my supporting shoulder. That's it. Now guys, if your shoulder is closed, I'm going to get stuck. So I'll have to push up through that shoulder to open it. That's it. Now, if anyone can get all the way up and over and around, you can try that. You can try and tap your other hand on the floor. So you might be able to pass all the way around. Again, pushing the weight back through the feet. Good little sweep. Change sides. So it's just exploring this movement. So I'm almost trying to look up and over at my fingers. That's it, Paul. Good. Push your weight back over that supporting shoulder. Ryan, same for you. Push over that arm as much as you can. That's it. Let's get another one in each direction. So I'm trying to push my hip bones up to the ceiling. Stretch out through those hip flexors again. So we did that tonight. That's better. Good, guys. Last one each way. So your goal here should be to get that top hand floating towards the ground. So working towards having two hands on the floor. Not necessarily tonight. Long-term goals if you're chasing them. And coming out of that there. All right. Guys, nicely done. Let's just finish off with a nice, gentle neck stretch. So you can sit, you can stand. If you have any problems with your knees, you can also come into a tall kneeling position for this one. So anything that's comfortable. And I'm just going to gently drop my chin to my chest, clasp my hands behind my head. My elbows are going to be facing forwards here. And I'm just gently drawing my chin down towards my chest. So I'd like you to take 5 full breaths in that position. If you don't want to put any extra pressure on this stretch, leave your hands off your head. So chin to chest. You can slump and round into your back as well if you like. And 5 full breaths. Again, if you have any issues with your neck, you're just being quite gentle there as well. When you come out of that, so taking your time, but when you do come out of that, just moving the head around gently. So a few small rotations side to side. You might like to look up and down a couple of times. Rolling the shoulders out. And guys, we are all done tonight, so nice work.